Hey everybody, Corn-Fed Lady here, and today we're not talking about baby chicks and we're not talking about baby bunnies, but I'm actually going to give you an update on our plans for gardening in 2023. This is the spot where we had our garden last year. And this is where we grew things like our sweet corn and potatoes, watermelons, pumpkins, tomatoes, peppers, and more. My husband just recently seeded this area with some feed seed, which includes things like alfalfa and clove for animals to feed on. Since we do plan on using this area as an expansion for the pigs at some point, we decided to replant this grassy area and we covered it up with some of the bunny poop and hay from the bunny shed. And just behind there is where we had our potato bed last year. We boxed in an area with cinder blocks and wood beams so that we could plant our potatoes above ground, making it easier to harvest them with a no-dig method. Now we've already torn this old potato bed apart and we've started moving all of the wood beams and the cinder blocks to the other part of the yard where we're going to set it up for this year's potato bed. So let's head over there and see what we've got set up so far. So we've moved our large garden area over here behind the chicken run, and this stack of pallets is actually covering up some old hay or straw that we're going to use on our garden as mulch. So pretty soon we'll be breaking down this stack of pallets and putting that straw out into the grassy area behind that tarp, making room for our potato bed up front here. So the potato bed is actually going to be built again with the cinder blocks and with the wood beams that we've moved over here. And the potato bed will run along the entire length of this side of the garden, or the entire length along this side of that blue tarp. So it'll all be potatoes. We'll probably have Kennebec White and Yukon Gold again. As far as our greenhouse goes, we have had a few issues with weather, and we lost the plastic covering to some 70-mile-an-hour sustained winds. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to be using the greenhouse right now, but we do have some peppers and tomatoes starting in a spare room of our house. So even though our greenhouse is not up and running right now, we are starting some seedlings in the house. Okay, let's go around the other side of the tarp here, and I'm going to tell you about some of the things that we plan on planting in this garden this year in 2023. So we're going to start down here on the south end of the garden, which is where I'm going to put the shortest plants so that the sunlight can reach over them to the tallest plants on the north end. So on the very southern end here, we're going to have carrots, and then lettuce and spinach. We'll have a row of kale. The bunnies and chickens really enjoy that, so I'm going to make sure to have plenty in there. Behind that we'll have some snap peas and some beans. And then later on this year, because that's kind of just where we're going to stop for the early spring planting on this front half, the back half of this garden is going to be planted late spring. And that will include things like peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers, and maybe some sunflowers. Now just on the west side of this tarp, we're going to plant all of our melons, including watermelons and pumpkins, and those will be able to vine out into this grassy area here towards these pallets in the yard. Now the other pallets out here, this second section in the grass is going to be for our sweet corn this year. And the old garden area, again, will be utilized as an extra paddock for our pigs. So they're going to be starting off in the green paddock, moving on to the middle paddock, and eventually we would like to have a third paddock in the back there for them. Now to do that, of course, we still do have to remove our compost bin, and we'll be setting it up by the new garden somewhere back in there. Okay, well that's it for the big garden. Why don't we go on up to the front yard and I can give you kind of an overview on the berria, or the berry garden. And you can see we got quite the harvest of raspberries and blackberries in particular last year. But we did also get some strawberries and currants out of our garden. And through the winter months, we've been using this as a dumping grounds for all of our bedding from our chickens and our bunnies. So you can see in these footpaths between the beds, we have quite a bit of hay and straw, and inside the beds themselves, we're going to be mulching with pine needles because a lot of our berries prefer the acidity from the pine needles. So in this first bed here, we've got a mix of red currants and white currants. And in the bed just behind that, we have two different varieties of blueberries, which you need two different varieties for them to be able to fruit. If you only have one variety, they will never produce fruit. Just beyond that, we have an asparagus patch that I seeded in last year. Now, obviously, I'm not going to be able to cut from that this year, but hopefully that'll be coming in thicker and thicker. On this back fence here, we have a couple of grapevines. We do plan on training those up the posts and across the lines, probably later on this year. And there's a second grapevine right down there. The end of these two beds here have blackberry bushes in them. There's 4 bushes in each bed, and they produce thousands and thousands of berries. This little section in the middle here is our strawberry bed, and just across from that is the cranberry bed. Now we haven't gotten any cranberries yet, we just planted those last year. And on the ends here we have raspberries, and those are very prolific. We got, again, thousands of raspberries and blackberries last year, and we're hoping to cash in on those again this year. And if you go to Farmers Market in Taylorville, you just might see some there. Well, that's it for the garden updates for today. Thanks for stopping by our homestead, and please make sure you click the like and subscribe button. Thanks. Have a good one.
Know you've been a good friend, and that's in the thick and thin.